Alright guys, this is going to be a very different kind of video for me. Picture it as more of a preview. Here's the rundown of the situation. One of you followers sent me a Japanese eShop code for the new Atelier game for the Nintendo Switch. So I wanted to make a video on it. What I'm going to make is kind of a preview. I can't really review the game because, one, I'm only a few hours into the game, and two, I can't really judge stuff. Since this is a Japanese version, I can't judge whether the story translation is good or not because I'm using Google Translate to try to at least understand everything that's going on. So, it's going to be a preview. I'm just going to kind of take you through a few things in the game, give you a rundown of the gameplay systems, the plot, how everything works, what's new, how the presentation and performance is on the Switch, since this will basically be the future of handheld Atelier games. So let's just go ahead and get it started up. Now, while it's loading to the title screen, this is Atelier Lydie and Suelle, the Alchemist and the Mysterious Paintings. This is the finale of the Mystery series, so in essence, it is a sequel to Atelier Sophie and Atelier Furus. And as such, I have already seen several cameos of characters from both of those games. Okay, now we're almost at the title screen. Okay, we're at the title screen. So let's go ahead and load our game. And yes, this is the Japanese version. As I said earlier, that 19 hours thing is not true. Actually, it is true, but it's not true. The fact that I've been having to stop and translate literally every block of text has turned probably a few hours of gameplay into 20 hours of gameplay. So let's go ahead and get it loaded up. I'll give you a rundown of the story and we'll take a look at the game. Alright, so here's our basic setting. We've got Lydie, the girl with the pink hair on the left there, and Suelle, or Sue as she is called in the game. Really, I don't think anybody has ever called her Suelle in the game so far, including their father. So Suelle is on the right, Sue is on the right. So they are our alchemists and protagonists of the game. We've got dual protagonists, but unlike Atelier Eska and Lydie, it's all one campaign. You don't choose a character at the beginning of the game. You can freely swap between the two. So the basic premise is they are twin sisters living in this town, and they live with their father. Something happened to their mother. It's not been explained yet, but they're basically trying to make ends meet. The two girls are self-taught alchemists trying to make things for people to make money, and the father paints paintings to try to make money. And from what I've surmised in the story so far, they're pretty much broke. All of the money that they gain from alchemy and everything goes to basics. Paintbrushes for the father and food for them to live on. So they're really just kind of scraping by. And the main thing here is because of this right here. Actually, is this right? I don't think this is right. Here it is. Okay, so the thing here is that this is the first time I've seen in an Atelier game. This is another Atelier, or Atelier, or whatever you want to call it with the pronunciation. Lydie and Sue have their very small Atelier, and we have this character right here, I don't remember her name, sorry, who has a very, very popular and successful Atelier. So they're kind of in competition with one another, with Lydie and Sue kind of hoping that one day they'll be really popular like this one, which is called Atelier Voltaire. But that's enough on the actual story situation. So let's take a look at the alchemy mixing system first. Since a lot of Atelier games will be wondering, well, a lot of Atelier fans, I'm sorry, are going to be wondering, okay, so what's new about the synthesis system? Alright, so we got our basic recipes. We got two things we can make. Alright, we got this. So, if you notice, underneath the picture for each of the materials, they've got little grids, kind of like we did in Atelier Sophie. So let's see, that grid is red and yellow. Let's see if we got any yellow in here. Got red, red, and yellow. And any more yellow or red? Yellow. Okay. So we got our grid here, and that's basically match the colors up with these colored tiles, and you will get more points to make a better quality material. So put the red over the red tiles, and put the yellow over the yellow tiles. And that'll increase, you know, attributes and the overall quality of the item that you are synthesizing. Okay, so let's get into the other part of the gameplay system. You've got the thing with dungeons is you got two different types of dungeons. I cannot access those dungeons right now because this basement here is where the paintings are. The title is The Alchemists and the Mysterious Paintings. All of the paintings that Dad here paints have worlds inside of them. I have not been able to access these again since the initial tutorial. But one day when Lydie and Sue go down into the basement where they're not allowed to go, they walk up to a painting and they're basically absorbed into it and go into the world inside the painting. Think Super Mario 64. And let me see if I have a screenshot of this. No, I don't. Because here are the two scenes where they're looking at the painting. And here's where they're actually inside the world. So inside the painting itself, you've got this really colorful world here. So you've got dungeons inside the paintings, and you've also got traditional dungeons out here. So we're going to go ahead and go to the traditional dungeons out here and talk about a few more things. Now the first thing is, you notice that in the top left corner of this screen, you've got a timestamp, a date. As far as I can tell, there is no time limitation in this game. Like Atelier Sophie, you can take as much time as you want to do all of your tasks, which makes it a very casual and really, in my opinion, very... Honestly, I find it more fun when I'm not restricted with time restraints. So you got your dungeon, you know, it's typical stuff here. You run around, do harvesting, fighting monsters. Now, first of all, let's talk about the presentation performance before we get into combat. So, you can see the frame rate here. It's pretty steady. I think we might be getting some frame drops, very, very, very small one, like maybe 30 FPS to like 28 FPS. I'm no expert on it, but I see it kind of jumping every once in a while, like nothing really major, just, you know. But with this, so far, it's more optimized than the last Vita games were. I've never seen any major drops. Now, we do kind of like skip a little bit when we go into combat, which I'll show you right here. I think there was a... Here we go. Yeah, see, it just kind of had that delay factor there. Not as bad as any of the Vita games, but, you know, just delay. So we've got, you know, our typical stuff. We can attack, we can use skills, and don't know what that is yet. I really don't know what that is. Actually, hold on just a second. I'm going to pull out my translation app and see what this actually says. Defend. Alright, so that's defend. So we got our physical attacks. Then we got Sue, which is who has a very interesting dual revolver weapon type. Now, I mean, that's not some big gameplay element. It's just something I find that's really neat. So we got dual revolvers here instead of the typical useless staff. Now, she has the useless staff that doesn't do very much damage. But as you can see, there's not really any lag in combat itself. When you spawn combat, yes. When you actually do stuff in combat, not so much. So it's definitely optimized better than the Vita games were. And it looks better too, because I mean, what I'm looking at here, we got a nice close look at Sue's sprite and no jagged edges anywhere. Lots of depth and detail. I mean, it really just looks nice. And just not really much other than that. Like with this right here, we see we have different types of harvesting. Like we have, like this looks like fishing, and I believe something else around here has a different type of gathering as well. Let me look to see if I can find that one point on the map. It might be in the other dungeon. But I remember seeing little marks earlier that would require having different types of tools for different types of gathering. Here it is right here. See, you need a butterfly net, which I obviously don't have because it's telling me I can't do it. But there's not really a lot new as far as gathering goes. I mean, you just got your main gathering. You can interact with rocks and stuff to like kick the rock or whack the rock until you break it down. But really, there's not a whole lot different about the actual harvest system. Yeah, here we go. This is very similar to what you had to do in Atelier to collect stuff from rocks and whatnot. And there's not really much else gameplay-wise different. I'm mostly just gonna go to the other dungeon, run around for a little bit, just so you can take a look at a little bit more of the performance. So, this new dungeon has this little star on the side right next to its name. That means it is the spot for our next main story section. So we'll go ahead and see that. Alright. I'm assuming this is going to be a boss tutorial. I'll translate this as we go. Alright, so they see this big, I don't even know what to call it, Griffin Chimera thing. And they are basically saying that this is a really interesting monster, but they think they're going to have an easy victory. So basically, like, oh, look at this monster, but don't worry, we've got this. So, boss tutorial, might as well show you. Alright. Yeah, that really wasn't much damage. So we'll use our skill. Show her skill as well. And we'll just see how this boss fight goes. Note that there's been very little combat up to the point I'm at right now, so I'm pretty sure this is a tutorial boss. Alright, and the boss fight's over. Got some materials. And I'll translate this scene for you before I close out of here. Alright, so basically, Lydie is surprised that they actually managed to win that. And Sue is basically saying that it was difficult even with 2 people. And suddenly there's 3 of them! They're assuming that they're the family of the one they just killed. And they're worried that they're now surrounded, obviously. And now they're gone. And here's Ilya, who came in and one-shotted them, worried about her students. Because at this point of the story, Ilya is basically their teacher. This is Ilya from Atelier Fierce. Fierce is basically basically a friendly rival. They're asking why she's here. And it says that she's basically been tailing them since they left the city. And we're going through a tutorial of wanting to make sure that you always bring in items. So I'm just going to close out here because this video is already pretty long. This was basically just supposed to be some extended preview to show you how Atelier on the Switch is going to look, how it's going to play, and how this game, you know, the plot setting and what little changes it's made since the previous games. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and look forward to an eventual review of this game in March when the English version comes out.